joining us here. I can wait a minute and say good afternoon, but we'll just say hello. And good to see everybody. I am Jamie Cope with the WVU Industrial Extension, and just wanted to welcome everyone here to Cybersecurity Basics, preparing for CMMC Level 1. We've got Melissa getting ready to give us a presentation. Melissa McCoy, the CTO of the Kaizen approach. And just a little bit of housekeeping while we're going through this. If you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the chat. And Melissa has said that she'll be happy to answer those as we go. And if you've got questions that you want to wait till the end with, we'll be happy to field those as well. So that's really it. I guess we should say that we've got another webinar coming up a week from today with the theme of management systems with our own Mark Hinline, and he always does a good job. And if you're interested in ISO systems, it's definitely the place to come check things out. So I'm going to just get out of the way and let Melissa have at it. So thank you, Melissa. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you. And I appreciate everyone for taking the time to listen and learn a little bit today, and hopefully not be intimidated by cybersecurity in general, or for those of you who are doing work with the Department of Defense, looking at CMMC in particular. And we're just going to go over some basics today. CMMC. It first came out in January of 2020. There was a revamp to a version 2 that you may have seen in news blips, and they've simplified the levels. The level that we're going to be talking about today is level 1, which is foundational or basic cyber hygiene, and it only requires an annual self-assessment. So the information that we're concerned about is for level 1 is called Federal Contract Information, or FCI. And the way that the government is describing that is anything that's around a contract, whether it's the maintenance of a contract or what you're, for those of you who are familiar with government contracts, you're talking about statements of work, market surveys, perhaps labor categories, task orders. All of that administrative work around managing and handling and paying with a federal contract, that's going to be FCI, and that's what we're going to focus on. I put this slide in so you can see where we are in the whole CMMC ecosystem. If you're going to be handling something called CUI, or controlled unclassified information, that's level 2. If you're paying attention to, if you're looking at news and, keeping up with different, news sites, you're going to see CMMC mentioned, and it's usually in tandem with level 2, CUI. We're focusing on level 1 because the DoD has said that most contractors in the defense industrial base, the 300,000 companies that sell to the Department of Defense, most of them will only need to be level 1 foundational. So that's where we're going to be focusing today. Luckily, there's only 17 controls in CMMC that you have to be concerned about. And it's called basic cyber hygiene because a lot of these things you're probably doing already. Every business, no matter what you do for your business, is a data business. You have data about your customers, you have data about the services or the products that you produce. You have data, your financial data, your accounting, your employees, your timekeeping, everything. All of that is data. And no matter what you do, you want to protect that data from being lost or, stolen or, used by a competitor. That's something that you want and need to protect. To have a government contract with the Department of Defense, you need to be CMMC Level 1 compliant. And we're going to talk about like what that means. All you need to do is you need to actively do these things, and you need to self-attest annually that you are doing them. There's only 6 sort of cybersecurity domains or families that Level 1 is concerned about. Access control to your systems that are holding federal contract information, and identification, authentication. Everybody has a user ID, there's a password, they only have access to what they need, kind of basic. Media protection is talking about do you have a shredder for sensitive data? If it's hard copy, you no longer need to use it. Physical protection, if you have, whether you're working at home or you have an office somewhere, you have a lock on the door, right? You may have an alarm system, you have locks on your desk or a file cabinet, whatever, that if you have any, contractual data, that you're doing something physically to make sure that it's not walking off somewhere. Systems and communications, that's, if you have a network, even if it's just an internet, connection, that you have some type of protection on that. And finally, systems information integrity, that's making sure that your systems are patched and kept up to date, and that you're running antivirus on desktops, servers, laptops, smartphones. We can't forget about smartphones, the little computers that track our every move. Getting more into this, antivirus. All machines accessing federal contract information, including BYOD or bring your own device. Many companies, large and small, allow employees to do company business, whether they're scheduling meetings, reading their email, taking phone calls, whatever. They can do that on a smartphone, or they might allow them to use their own laptops or desktops. Making sure that anybody who's accessing company data, they're using a device that has some type of antivirus on there. And we're going to talk about some free options at the very end of this presentation that you can use. Just want to stress that complying with these basic controls does not have to be expensive, and I suspect that a lot of you are doing this now anyway. All machines, including personal machines that you don't have any control of, that your company, your employees are using, their personal machines, should also be patched and kept up to date. Our friend Windows Update can take care of a lot of that, making sure that you're accepting your smartphone device updates whenever that you're notified. That's important too. You should be identifying your systems where you're storing possible federal contract information, making sure that you know where they are. Like I referred to before, systems containing FCI, everybody should have their own ID and password. You shouldn't be sharing accounts. Any media, hard drives, little USB drives that are storing FCI, they should be wiped, and if you're not using them anymore, destroyed with extreme prejudice. You can destroy it yourself, or you can send it to a recycling center. And like I said before, paper should be shredded. physical controls, locked cabinets, locked desks, making sure that your offices are locked. Folks working at home in their home offices, there should always be a drawer or a closet or something that you could secure things away if you need to. Unfortunately, and I suspect that this might be a change in future, if you have people coming to your office for business purposes, you should keep a visitor log. And even if you don't have a corporate office, just keeping track of people who are coming to your home office for business purposes, not your friends and family. That's not required at all. But if someone's coming to your home office for a business purpose, that you keep track of who's coming to see you. And your home and corporate offices should have a firewall function. If you're in a home office and you're getting your router or your modem from your internet service provider, Comcast, Verizon, if you have a satellite modem, they're going to be firewall functions within that. You should make sure that they're like up and running and active. All these things that we talked about are things that you're probably doing now. I bring up the bring your own device because everybody, I've not yet had a client that said we don't allow bring your own device. This is a big issue. The pros are obvious. You don't have to buy equipment for your people. Folks are happy that you have people who love their Android phones, people who love their Apple phones, people who like Macs, people who like Windows. It really is a boost to productivity, and you're only using like one device. But in order to be safe and compliant, if they're machines that you don't control as a company, then you're relying on your employees to be educated and make the following controls, make sure they're there. Patches, they need to be done. Antivirus or any other type of expanded endpoint security software. A lot of antivirus vendors are putting out more of a firewalling function. There's all sorts of options for endpoint controls. The loss of a device, if it's a smartphone or a laptop, can put any locally stored data at risk. So making sure that the data is encrypted when it's on the device. And unfortunately, if it's not a company-owned device, there's really nothing you can do to prevent. You can ask the employees, like, please don't let someone else use this device while you're using it for business purposes, but you can't really control that. And lastly, data breaches from personal, bring your own device, they are on the rise. And for all the reasons that I just mentioned, if you're not controlling it from a business, then you need to put more education and tools in the hands of your employees to help protect your data. I referred to, and we'll get to a list of some free options. If you do allow personal devices to access company data, use free, or you can purchase them, security software. Plain antivirus, or you can have more rigorous controls. Most of the free options are managed by the person. For example, if you allow companies to read company email on their personal phones, you can give them an option, like, here's some free antivirus for Android, for Apple, download them from the Apple or the Play Store. They'll self-install. They'll ask them a certain number of questions. If they're not already using antivirus on their phones, they should. These are not phones. They're, very sophisticated computers with recording devices and, a lot of things that can be cameras, microphones, that can get at your personal data as well as the firm's company data. Antivirus should be used everywhere. If you buy something for your company and you tell your employees, please download this, and this is going to be managed by the company, that gives you more visibility into, what's happening if the phone has been infected with malware, or there's an application that's doing strange things, kind of, it's asking for location, it's asking to use the microphone and it really shouldn't, whatever. Those are also options as well. These antivirus, these free products that I'm going to be recommending, they will also warn you if an email contains a link to a website that could be suspicious. So you're not only getting antivirus protection or scanning of applications on the phone, but you're also getting some protection from phishing, which is nothing more than a way to lure people into downloading malware. I referred to Windows Update earlier. If you're running Windows, or if you have Macs, both vendors have the ability to set up, automatic patch downloads. Please set this up. Please use them. If you get a prompt to, reboot your machine, to install patches, save your work, do it. Stay up to date. You are not a target if you don't give, an attacker anything to dig into. There's patch management software. If you have, say you have, several servers, or you have maybe like 10 desktops and laptops that are owned by the company, there's free patch management software that I can recommend, and I'll be giving you a link to at the end, that you can use. The vendor has paid options, but in order to get people interested in their products, for small businesses, they're giving their service away free of charge. In terms of you're ready to send a server or a desktop, it's too slow, it can't be upgraded anymore, what do? You can use free software to wipe it before you take it to the recycler, or a lot of companies that I work with, they'll allow the employees to take the machines home, but you need to make sure that you wipe it of any company data before you allow that. So there's free software to do that as well. Also, if you want to be extra sure that things are destroyed, you can drill the drives, you can smash them up. There's plenty of creative ways to make sure that a server or a workstation or a laptop hard drive can never be read again. And it's all free, but requires, a little bit of physical activity there. So we've been talking about things that are technical in nature, software that you can download. software configurations on your, with the operating systems on Windows or Macs, Android or iOS. These are all, if we were only dealing with technical issues, this would be like a much shorter conversation, and it would be easy to implement. But we need people to actually do these things. So you need procedures to actually make sure that these things are done. What I recommend is that you have a procedure to onboard and offboard employees to make sure that they have the access they need. If you have a local server storing your information, or you could be using Office 365 or Google Workspace. You have a time system, you're using QuickBooks for your accounting and finance, making sure that you have like a checklist, a process to set access up and then to remove access when people move on.
Melissa, we have a question.
Awesome.
Yeah, it says, hi, Melissa, regarding bring your own device, if in worst case, a cybersecurity issue leads to litigation, does the mixing of work and private business on a bring your own device mean that the devices can and will be included in said litigation and be subject to subpoena and full discovery, including your personal metadata on the device?
That is a very good question. I am not a lawyer. I would suspect that it is only the company information that would be applicable, not the person's the person's personal information. However, functionally, they would at least have to provide access to the device if it was, subpoenaed.
I can help here a little bit. I actually work for a law firm. I worked for a law firm, and this was one of the things that we talked about was discovery. And you're 100% correct on that. Is the phone is subject to discovery in that situation, and what's on the phone, whether it applies to work or not, can be looked at. That's the issue with the discovery and putting applications on your phone. There are ways to get around that, like Intune is one of the ways that you can use. You can use an application called Intune, which all it does is put the email on the phone, but it's more like you're logging into your email. It's not on the phone. That's not physically on the phone. There's no way it can be downloaded into the phone. But in matters of discovery, in most cases, that's why all of our lawyers carry two phones. They carry their personal phone, they carry their work phone, and only work messaging goes to their work phone, and everything else is separated.
Much appreciated. That is exactly what I expected. I would say it probably also reduces the enthusiasm of the average user to use their personal phone for business.
There's options for you. You mentioned Intune. That is a Microsoft offering. They bundle that in with Microsoft Office 365. That's a very good tool to use to limit what you're doing, what you're sharing on a personal phone. There's also options if you're for federal contract information. I always recommend, for example, you don't have to use a mobile device management product like Intune. You could tell people, if you're using Office 365, and I'm just using this as an example, you can have your employees download Outlook Mobile and access email from Outlook. So it's tied to your Office 365 domain. So you can read it, but it's not necessarily storing it there. And when you want to remove access from that device, you can do so in Office 365. Google Workspace has the same functionality. So rather than having people forward email to their own personal email, forcing them to use a particular application to log in with their company account saves a lot of headache. And again, it's not required. It's with Google or Office 365, downloading the app to read your email. There's no extra charge. It's free. So getting back to procedures, having a procedure to do all these things, we talk about, well, we should be patching, we should be, setting things up. Actually doing it is another. And having a procedure in place doesn't have to be something that, that's a pile of words. Procedures that are in a checklist format, a procedure that is like screenshots of here's how you install this, or here's how you set up Windows Update, or here's a procedure that we do if you have a corporate office. You have a procedure to lock up the office at night, set the alarm, make sure the doors are locked, whatever. That while you're not you're not going to be audited by a third party to make sure these things are in place. The government, it was within their right to spot audit people. And also, if you're attesting that you're doing something, you should be really doing it. A procedure is nothing more than saying, like a year or two from now, when you've got new people and your business is growing and you're expanding, that everybody knows what they need to do. And the worst thing of all is when you have somebody who knows everything and tells everybody, and they're the functioning, knowledge of the company, and then that person is out on vacation for 2 weeks and nobody knows what to do. Don't do that. Make sure that you have procedures documented, people know where to find them, people know how to do the things that will allow you to be, more secure. And again, it doesn't have to be explicitly documented in a certain format. It's whatever you need to actually get it done. Going back to BYOD, make sure that that you figure out what you're going to allow and that you inform your staff. Make sure that if you're telling them that you're going to do these things, tell them why. Make them a part of it. I found that over the years dealing with employees, whether I'm working in a company with 10,000 people or 10, if people understand why something is in place, it becomes part of their normal operations. They buy into it. They understand why it's important to do what they need to do. And that is, whether it's locking their workstations when they get up to go to lunch, whether it's, making sure that they respond to, an antivirus alert on their laptop or phone, and it's like, oh, I've got a problem here. I have to make sure that it's contained. I should, tell people that this happened. Make them a part of the solution. It's not, again, it's not hard, but any restrictions that you put in place, in whether it's company or whether it's a personal device that you're allowing them to access, make sure they know why. So these are, if you don't know where to find information about CMMC version 2, this is the horse's mouth. you probably, if you would go to Google CMMC right now, you're going to see a bunch of vendors pop up that will tell you that their solutions will solve all of your CMMC problems. Go right to the source, and the DoD will tell you. They have a good frequently asked questions, and any changes that they make to the standard or any you know, information about how it's going to be implemented, this is it. Bookmark these sites. As promised, free resources. Being compliant doesn't mean a lot of, you know, money falling out of your pocket. There's a lot of resources out there, a lot of vendors who are providing access to their products or their services. Number one, it puts their applications out there. But secondly, they recognize that small companies become medium and large companies, and you know, getting their products and services out there, being used, exercised, you know, this is a great way to build market share. With the antivirus and the endpoint software, I have used, and I am using the free versions, but I'm also using their paid versions, and they're almost exactly the same. So you're getting really excellent functionality, absolutely free. I would encourage you to use them if you're not using antivirus already. If you need to expand them to your BYOD folks, send them these links and ask them to download and install. An important thing to tell folks is that if they're using these free versions, that they're not being monitored by the company. This is just something that they're using to protect their own data, and by extension, your data, your company's data, if it's being accessed or downloaded. We mentioned security training. I put these links in here. They're free, but they're just to give you a heads up on what's happening out there. The FTC site has really good, like very short informational articles about how to protect small businesses. The phishing quiz, that's just fun, but it's good to push these out to employees and just say, you know, would you be able to recognize a phishing email? Would you be able to recognize a scam email? And the final link is CDSE. That comes right from the government. There's some very good training seminars, webinars, again, that you could show people and say, this is why we're doing this. This is why the government's concerned about their supply chain. This is why the government's concerned about their DoD contractors. This is why all of this is in place. Like I said before, educated, aware employees are going to be, you know, a big asset in protecting your company's data, not just what you're doing in dealing with the government, but all of these basic CMMC Level 1 cybersecurity, basic hygiene controls, they're going to protect your data as well. Everything that you put in place is going to reap benefits for your own proprietary business data. And that's it for me. If you need to contact me to ask me any questions about any of the products or services, or just, you know, general questions on CMMC specifically or cyber in general, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. Lots of good stuff in there. And I'm not 100% sure that I mentioned that we will be sending out a recording of this. An email follow-up will be sure and have your contact information in that as well. And just really want to thank you for doing this. Actually, I do have a question. If anybody else wants to ask more questions, put them in the chat. But one of the big questions is just how do people get started? Like if I'm in the situation and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to jump in, how do I get started?
That's a really good question. One of the ways I answer that is reviewing the 17 controls, and you can use this this presentation, or you can go directly to the DoD website that I have in this presentation and look at the 17 controls, and just you're doing some of them. You are, and realizing, doing it just a little self-assessment of, well, you know, I'm already using antivirus. I'm, you know, already limiting, you know, everybody has a user ID and password to, you know, all of my systems, and but I'm not sure I'm keeping up with patch management. Maybe I better do, the first step is always to do sort of an initial assessment and be brutally honest with yourself and give yourself a pat on the back for what you are doing, and then just take one thing at a time and work your way through it. And there isn't like a right place to start, but just take one piece and start working through it. And I think you'll be surprised, number one, at how direct and straightforward the process is to be, you know, be compliant. And once you have it in place, again, just making sure that you are doing it and creating little checklists and procedures to make sure that this keeps moving forward is all that you need to do.
Right.
Melissa, sorry, Jane. This is
Oh,
Stacy.
no, go ahead.
This is Stacy. I want to thank you for saying it like that too, because you know, Eric, thanks for giving your insight, because you are a wealth of knowledge for us, and we've learned a lot in working with you over the last year with cybersecurity. And it does have a very scary connotation when you hear cybersecurity, and we know that a lot of our clients get overwhelmed by it. And there are a lot of good things that can be done, even at very basic levels, to start demonstrating the controls that you have in place and teaching your employees about good hygiene practices. And we, as the, you know, manufacturing extension partnership, are being required ourselves by NIST and the Federal Department of Commerce, who holds our cooperative agreement, to do the same things. So we certainly understand the challenges that you have, and we're working through them as well. And, you know, so the stuff we've learned from our clients and through Melissa and other training avenues have really taught us a lot. So know that you're not alone. We can share information and all work together, but there are many, many things that you're probably already doing and can expand upon to really help your processes in this area. So I just wanted to thank you, Melissa and Eric, for the insight. It's really helpful, especially to us all who are learning as we move along through this challenge.
All right. Well, I don't see any other questions, and I don't want to stand between everybody and lunch. So we'll see you next Wednesday at noon for our ISO webinar. For those that are interested, don't hesitate to sign up for that. You can find the registration at wvmep.com and click on events. So we'll see everybody again real soon. Thanks. Thank you, Melissa.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.